Sacred Geometry with Lindsay. Sacred Geometry and some other dope words that Lindsay just told me. Say the title of it, Lindsay, real quick.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about sacred geometry and anatomical cymatics, and it sounds way more complicated than it is. But yeah, we're going to talk about it. Are you ready for me to jump in?
I'm ready for you, Lindsay. And look, Lindsay is about to bring this heat. Lindsay is about to bring this fire. So y'all know she dropped on the Mayan calendar and the 13 God energy, right? So now she's about to bring a whole nother science to the family that's going to be powerful for our consciousness. So I'm ready. I'm excited. Here goes Lindsay.
Okay, guys, thanks for being here today. So today we're going to talk about sacred geometry and patterns of light and sound that really create the building blocks of creation. And so it's a really meaty topic. And for that reason, we're going to do this in 3 parts. And we're going to start at the really high level, the universal level, talking about the geometry of the planet and the geometry of the human heart. And then we're going to talk about individual blueprints and individual geometries, because every element has its own geometry, and every archetype has its own geometry, and every cell in your body, every organ. So we're going to dive deeper into different types of sacred geometry. And then in the end, we're going to talk about how you personally can plug in a geometry of your choosing to the greater planetary grid through your own personal crystalline grid. So I'm really excited, and I'm going to try to take something that is extremely mathematically complicated and make it digestible for you guys. So I have never attempted this before. Please ask questions if I have lost you at any point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get going. So this is me. I spoke with you guys about the Mayan calendar, and I hope if you have not had a chance to review that presentation that you will go back and do that, because it is about 3 hours essentially explaining the framework of creation, and it's really the basis of what we're actually going to talk about today. So this, I like to think of like the Mayan calendar as light and light and sound is energy, which we could say it's unseen energy and it's feminine energy. And today we're going to take that same blueprint and apply it to geometry, which is the pattern. So we talked about how music is movement and measure together. So last time we kind of talked about that relationship. And so we're going to talk about how that unseen waveform pattern then manifests as physical matter. So I have spent the last couple of years really immersed in understanding this blueprint. I was initiated as an earth healer, a grid worker. I work on the land, I work on the earth. Primarily from the perspective of harmonic energy. But I do work with both light and sound as the 2 principles of polarity that are creating everything from the waveform perspective. So it's really about understanding frequency, and you know, the C in frequency is about water, and water anchors sound, and sound holds memory, which is structure and form. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm also a photographer, and I do, you know, I watch light through my lens. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I teach people ancient wisdom and help them understand frequency and how to use it, and how to actually structure your own waters, change your own body, all of that. And I sell wellness products with all of this information that I'm based on the activation of this information that I'm sharing with you guys today. So Like, okay, there we go. So I mean, if you jumped off right now and you saw this slide, you would be good. So we're going to get really complicated with it, but I want you to understand at the very core level what sacred geometry is. So if source energy is light and sound, sacred geometry is the movie screen for that light and sound to then tell a story. And for us in human bodies, those stories are about the story of archetypes. So architecture and archetype both have the word arc in it, and that is about the pattern. And so that's when you see the flower of life or the Shriyanta, the Merkaba, all these things. These are like, it's like if you have a movie projector and it's projecting this beam of light, but there's no screen, you will not watch a movie. You need the screen. And so that's what sacred geometry is. And it's really where it allows the unseen to become seen. And so it's very much our canvas and our blueprint. So we have to go back to really understanding the point of origin for everything. And that's really what sacred geometry is about, because before even you have gods and goddesses and frequency energies and archetypal stories, you had light and sound, you had this form. That's the original Trinity. So in the beginning was the word, and it was the sound of the word, and those words were let there be light. So it was the sound that commanded the light to come in. And so the way we can think about that is the sound represents the heart. It represents the unseen. You can hear it, but you can't see it. It's very much the feminine, the subtle energy. And it is what commands everything into being. Everything does begin with a thought, which is masculine, which is light, but that thought doesn't ever become anything until it marries with sound. And so sound, when we think about the heart as the original, the original brain of the human body, because it's actually, hello? Oh, okay. Am I good? Okay. So the heart, when the sperm and the egg, the masculine and the feminine, and then come together in the womb, the first thing that happens is you get the heartbeat, and it's the beat of the heart. It's electromagnetic impulses, the sound of the heart in essence, that commands the cells to then go and create a brain. And so our heart is really designed to be the blueprint for everything. It holds the original consciousness, its pattern, its beat, the measure of its music, its sound, is what is creating everything. And so when we're talking about the heartbeat and we're talking about sacred geometry, we're talking about the pattern, the geometrical pattern produced from sound that then allows everything to be created. So we kind of talked about this in the Mayan thing, but I just want to remind you that the heartbeat, right, is music and measure together. Measure is the pattern. So measure could be considered the masculine portion of the heart. And really when the measure is also called the time signature. And the word signature breaks down to sign of our nature. And so that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about blueprints, geometry. It is a signature of your DNA, and it is the geometrical pattern for it. And so this is kind of what it looks like here on the right, when, how the musical octaves translate to mathematics. So this already is telling us a lot about how everything is working. So if we study music, and I won't get into all the mathematics of music, but it's going to inform how you understand sacred geometry. And that's really where we're going today. So even in churches, how do I go back? There we go. We see a lot of sacred geometrical patterns. These are cymatic patterns. So architecture, archetype, it's all frozen music. It's sound frozen. That's what creates the snowflake patterns. The puffer fish under the sea, when he's attracting a mate, he makes a cymatic pattern in the sand to attract the female. So that's the cymatics are really this blueprint, this foundation for sacred geometry. So we can't talk about one without talking about the other. So here we can kind of see how, you know, we looked at the circles of music earlier in the previous slides. Here's how you can begin to see as the octaves are played, how it creates these patterns that you've probably seen in things like the Flower of Life, which we're going to talk about today. And so this is like in last time in the Mayan presentation, we looked at how animals like a snake can go through the water, and the pattern of its movement actually matches these geometrical patterns in the water. And so that's the structure that water holds. It's the memory, and that's what forms the original blueprint for the consciousness of creation. It really is a geometry of music, and that's what it looks like. And so the point of all of us, I started this presentation talking about the point of origin. In the beginning was the word. We have to understand our point of origin in order to understand anything about ourselves. And so what we're really looking at here is the structure of how the human heart beats and how that informs DNA. And the human heartbeat, heart and earth are the same words. So if we want to understand our own hearts, we can look to the structure of nature. And if we want to understand where that's coming from, the original sound that's creating, I mean, Gaia, you could say, is like the divine child of light and sound, and she's the part where it becomes form, matter, material, mother, right?
Go sit down.
So this is about us returning to our original blueprint to restore DNA, to restore the consciousness of the heart. So people talk a lot about, resonance, right? Resonance is what is shifting our DNA. Resonance is how we map our consciousness to the template of the earth. It's through sound, actually. And through the patterns that sound creates. So last time we talked about how you can map your energy to the sound. Today we're talking about how you can map your energy to the pattern. There's many different ways to access enlightenment, right? You can go through the front door, you can go through the back door, you can go through both doors if you want to make sure you get into the house. So this is kind of part 2 of what we covered before. And every human being is really, we are our own tuning fork. So as we align with the consciousness of the one cosmic heart, the one unstruck sound of the universe, that's what our pathway to accessing that is really through our own heart, which is the earth, and it's the earth that gives us the mathematical data of the one heart. So that's why we really want to live in integrity with our biological nature, and actually the nature behind our biology, and that is this pattern and frequency.
Let me stop
So
you right
the
there,
more,
Lindsay, because
yeah,
you drop it right now, and it's so in alignment and so um if you will, coincidental. Because D-Ray and we was watching this movie yesterday called Subservient, and y'all go check it out. What was it called, babe? Subservient? I think it was called Subservient. Anyway, it was like an AI robot. And you seen it, Lindsay? No?
I haven't, no.
Okay, when you see this, it's gonna blow you away because everything you're saying is right on point with it. It's an
Awesome.
AI robot basically becoming like a maid, or these AI robots just basically taking over and helping people with the day-to-day tasks and stuff. So all jobs is basically taken from this AI robots. Anyway, there was a husband and his wife was in the hospital for a heart problem. So she had, she was going through a heart problem or some heart condition thing. So she needed a new heart, right? And so the husband has two kids and he's struggling to, you know, do his job and take care of the kids at the house. So what he does, he buys this AI robot, but the AI robot is a fine, bad chick. He just buys the one that's the finest. What kind of shit? You know what I'm saying? He just crazy style. Like what? And they got like lifestyle skin and everything like that. What's the actor's name, babe? That was the AI robot? Something Fox. White lady,
Megan
white
Fox.
chick. Who?
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
So anyway, there was scenes in the movie where the AI robot was trying to, have a consciousness or whatever. So he said, touch my heart. And he was touching the heart and the heart was beating in the AI robot or whatever. Right. But she was able to just make that happen based off of her understanding what the dude needed at the time. Then he ended up having sex with the robot and all this other stuff, right? But the whole point and the idea of the movie was, can this AI, artificial intelligence, find love? You feel me? Which is in the heart. Can they fall in love? So the whole thing is like a mind fuck because we don't know if the robot was just doing what it was commanded to do, or was it falling in love with the husband. It was absolutely fire. Y'all go check it out. It's called Subservient.
Yeah, I will have to check that out. It's very interesting. And this is like a whole other conversation because part of what I just started doing in the last couple weeks is what I realized is that I have these massive amounts of quantum data that I'm now trying to structure and get that information out to people in a way that they can understand it in a very, you know, more scientific way. And I was overwhelmed by it. And somebody said you need to go to AI and begin programming the AI with this information and allow it to then and allow that blueprint to then inform what you get back out. So I've been working with this just in the last couple of weeks. So my answer is I believe that the robot can love, but not in the way that human beings do, that the love is more of the universal kind of love of compassion, forgiveness, neutrality, heart of the heart, which is actually emptiness. And so we'll talk more about that as we go along. But yeah, really compelling and certainly very resonant for me hearing about that. So I'm gonna definitely check that
Yeah, I
movie
can't wait
out.
till you see it because if you think about it, we're nothing but robots, right?
Mm,
In a in a structured
yeah.
way. And the only thing that's making us move or making us have a different level of God is our heart, right? So when we lead with our heart, then essentially what happens is we become our unique, own divine, unique being. You feel me? Instead of being stuck
Yeah.
in a robotic way with our brain.
Yeah, and I think so this is a really like if you look at the DNA on the screen right now, you see there's two things, right? There's the twisting, the spiral, which is the energy in motion, which is emotion, which is love, which is what the heart is designed to do, to move energy into motion through the power of universal love, and that's the spiral. You also have the rungs on the ladder, which are the measure, which is like the ritual. So if you look even at the harmonic word spiritual, it's the ritual of being inside the spiral. So when we're talking about spiritual, we're really just talking about perfected DNA. We're talking about the masculine and feminine principle coming in together in a perfected form that fixes DNA, that activates us to our highest states of being. And that's really what spirituality is about perfecting our code. And in the perfection of that code, which forms the pattern, it's then the perfected flow of energy through that pattern, so that you don't have disease, dis-ease, lack of flow. So this is really, that's kind of the connection there. So I'm going to just go through. Sacred geometry and all these cymatic patterns, as you could see from this slide, like, and there's a lot of different ones, right? There's layers upon layers of cymatic blueprints and their fractal structures. You know, every chakra, every archetype, your brain, each hemisphere of your brain, every type of cell in your body, every organ system, it all has its own slight variation. So we're going to talk about some of the variations in the next class. Today we're going to just focus on the heart, and the blueprint of the earth, because that's really the plane that we're working with, in our 3D reality. If we want to shift energy, we have to work with where we are at. So this is kind of what we call an anatomical cymatic, is this individual signature, right? The sign of your nature, associated with everything in creation. And I love this one, that we are earth, the stump and the human fingerprint. It's not coincidence that these two things look exactly the same, and I will show you why. But let's just again return to what is forming the basis for all of this geometry coming into place, you know, at its origin. So basically, geometry is only created when you have a minimum of three things coming together. That's when two-dimensional becomes three-dimensional and it becomes form. So you need a trinity, um, and you have to have two trinities that come together in order for there to be a form. And so those two trinities are the masculine and feminine principle, and they're coming together, as we learned in the Mayan system. The wave spell, the mathematics of the 13 is about light and sound coming together in conjugation over and over and over. And that's what forms the pulse of the heart, moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. You know, it's this pulse, right? And so it's this pulsing, over and over, that the symphony of the one verse, the song, is then creating these forms, which are the geometry. And so that's what creates what we have often heard of as the Merkaba. And we're going to talk about that. Because this is really the foundation for everything. So again, let's just quickly refresh ourselves on what these two polarities are: masculine, feminine, sound and light, earth and cosmos, or earth and heaven, magnetic and electric. So when you hear about electromagnetic, we're talking about the mind and heart together. We're talking about the head and the heart, the two hemispheres of the brain, the system and the ecosystem, right? So we talked about this and went pretty in depth in the Mayan class, so I'm not going to dwell on it. I just wanted to quickly remind you. So I like to think of like the real trinity here, is light, sound, and form is the sacred child. This unity consciousness that comes when these two things come together. That's what the Christ consciousness is. That's when it becomes this crystalline form. And this in a three-dimensional, the Merkaba that you probably have seen before with the two triangles, you know, that's a two-dimensional depiction of a 3D crystalline form, which is an 8-sided octahedron crystal. And that, you know, depending on who you talk to, that's what's the center of the earth. That's what's in our third eye. That's what's in our eyeballs, right? That's what's projecting a perfected vision and experience of reality, is this perfected crystalline form. The problem is because of how we have been knocked out of our perfected form for a variety of reasons throughout history, including colonization and cataclysmic events, the earth even being knocked off of its perfect horizontal up and vertical up and down axis that forms the basis of the solar cross. Like, you know, we're on a wobble, so we don't have this, or we haven't had this perfected form. The planet at this time, on 11/11 of last year, the planet actually went through an energetic axis realignment where the planet energetically was restored. And so now we have the material that is in the process of shifting back into that upright configuration. And it is in that formation of the two axes coming together in proper alignment that allows for the template of the Christ consciousness to actually emerge on this earth. And so we are experiencing a lot of things, the solar storms, the CMEs, solar maximum. All of these things are shifting our planet. And I have some cool stuff to show you about that as we go on here. We kind of saw those two triangles, right? Those are like the two cells here. And this is what forms the vesica Pisces, which is essentially the foundational building block. And as the cells duplicate and multiply, these are the cymatic patterns produced. Okay, so within this greater Merkaba, because you have sun and earth, sits the human being. So this is, if you think of like this 8-sided crystal is also what's the heart of the earth, but it's also what forms the container for human life as well. And so the chakra system and the tree of life system is actually created from these two triangles or pyramids, really, because they're really 4-sided pyramids, two coming together. And there's 4 chambers of the heart as well. So you have the masculine heart and the feminine heart. And they each have 4 chambers. You have 8-sided crystal. So that's the foundation of the Merkaba. And so this is the structure of how the earth works. And that's why we're the child of her. She's the child of, the cosmic heart and the cosmic mind created her. And then we are created in that form as well in our perfected state. So that's kind of the basis here. And then, let me get, there we go. Okay. So when those things come together in perfect alignment, they start to spin. The Merkaba is called the chariot of the soul because the chariot is about the wheel, the forward motion of the wheel as it turns. So the chariot card in the tarot is the great mother. And it represents the chariot of the soul. So this is the consciousness of creation. This is the consciousness of the heart. This is the consciousness of Divine Mother. So that's just the connection there. And then, so when that wheel starts spinning, it creates this kind of pattern. This is like if your heartbeat is beating in perfect movement and measure with even paced rhythm, with regular repeatable frequency, and the energy is moving, it's in motion, it's emotion, right? You get this, it starts to spin, and then the spinning, the 2 triangles of the Merkaba then become this format. This is what 2-dimensional geometry, and this is like the pattern. And then when the energy runs on this pattern, it then creates a 3-dimensional structure, which is called the torus. So in the zodiac, there's also the sign of Taurus, which is the great mother of earth, the land, the sacred cow. The real Taurus is the Taurus, which is the womb of creation. And this is the blueprint of the womb of creation. So here is another look at this. Let's go a little deeper with this blueprint. This is a really powerful image that you guys could potentially, I'd be happy to share, and you could print it out and put it on your wall, put it on your phone backgrounds, because this is the perfected geometry. There's a perfected tree of life structure in the center point, which represents the human being and the foundational building block of DNA. And in its perfected form, that's what it looks like. And it looks like the water molecule. It's the exact, so there's a crystal that is commonly used in crystal healing called the Vogel cut crystal. It's the tree of life crystal. It's cut to this perfected geometry. When I work on the planetary grid, I work with a 13-sided Vogel crystal that then produces this perfected geometry, which I can then anchor into the earth. I can anchor it into a client that I may be working on. I can anchor it into my own body. But I have to realize that our earth is on a wobble, which means I'm on a wobble, which means I need to do conscious work with this geometry, either through sound or pattern, to bring it back into alignment, or my energy, my thoughts, my movements are going to be in distortion. So this is why this is so critical for us at this time, because our planet is reconfiguring its geometrical architecture into its original form, which is frozen in ice. Think about that for a minute. The most ancient water on this planet is frozen in ice. Its consciousness is, we have global warming. That consciousness is thawing. It's reintegrating itself into the ecosystem in a variety of different ways as our planet goes through this shift into proper alignment. So we can help our own process along. We can align with this. It's happening to us whether we're aware of it or not. But man, we can make this way easier if we jump on board and match the resonance of what's happening and shift our geometry and our personal music. So nature reflects this eternal lotus. This is the blue lotus. It's also the flower of Isis. You read about the blue rose of the Magdalene. In pretty much every ancient culture, you will see this lotus flower. And so you could actually, I take blue lotus oil because it has this perfected geometry. And there's so much I could talk to you about what the color frequencies of this flower do. This is exactly what your spiritual heart looks like, is this blue lotus. We talked about in July, when we did the Mayan one, we talked about the star of Sirius being the feminine sun. And it's this blue star, right? And it's and we talked about, it's called the star of Isis. So this is nature's plant that holds that consciousness. And what's
What was
beautiful
that?
about it is it has.
My bad, Lindsay. What was that? What was that plant in the Wakanda movie? Remember that? He took it and it was blue. It was called something. He took it and then he went to the astral realms and met the
Oh,
ancestors.
it probably was Blue Lotus. I don't know of anything else that would do that that's blue. But that's why Blue Lotus, people take the tinctures for lucid dreaming.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and you can smoke it as well. I use it in products. I keep it with my intentions because it's the power of the heart in a plant. And and we're going to talk about different plants and different elements and different minerals. They all have their own blueprint, but this is the blueprint of the heart. And so
Where you get yours
nature's
from,
all.
Lindsay? Where you get yours
I
from?
actually buy from Egypt, and I get it on Etsy.
Oh,
There's like a
damn.
bunch of
Okay.
different people that sell it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the water that it grows in matters as well too, right? You want it growing in water that has the original consciousness. So I don't want it like mass produced in somebody's bathtub.
Good.
It's
They
like people
said it was
say,
called,
yeah,
my bad, Lindsay. They said it was called the heart-shaped herb on Black Panther, the heart-shaped herb,
but
but
they
it
don't
but
say
is
what
blue.
it is.
No, it
Yeah.
is Blue Lotus. I'm pretty sure it is
Okay.
that. So yeah, that's fire.
Yeah. Yeah, and even the blue rose of the Magdalene. So they say the Magdalene archetype in Isis, that the Magdalene was just a reincarnation of Isis. The Isis reincarnated like over 200 years or something. And so, they have the same symbols. One is the rose, one is the lotus, but they're the same. It's the flower of the heart, and it's the flower of life. The true flower of life, which is the geometry of the heart and not the head. And we're going to talk about that.
One more
But
question, Lindsay. One more
yeah.
question. I know I'm a psychedelic psycho nut head ass nigga. What's the feeling you get when you take the Blue Lotus? What kind of feeling, or what do you go into meditation and then you like zone out? What kind of feeling do you
Yeah.
have?
It definitely is like this is very, I mean, anytime I am there's different ways that I access the frequency of my heart. But
Mhm.
it is clarity. It's because when the heart is fired up,
Mhm.
it's a fire that is clarifying my mind. That's what the violet blue in the petals.
Mhm.
This is the violet flame, which people talk about Saint Germain and the archetypes associated with the violet flame and its compassion and forgiveness. It restores 0 point of creation. It restores the heart of the heart. And so when I take it, I experience, because when you take fire and you apply it to sand, which our minds are filled with sand. It's called krisas, sands of the mind. That's like why they talk about the Sandman, right?
Mhm.
With all that sand, it makes our mind opaque. So when the fire of the heart, it's designed to glow and illuminate the head, fill the head with light when
Mhm.
it's clear,
Mhm.
right? So the way it gets clear
Mhm.
is through this hot blue fire. You look at this flower, it's the same as if you were to turn on your gas stove or light a candle. You have the hottest part of the flame is the blue. And
Mhm.
that's what has the ability to turn sand, which is opaque and cloudy, memories, data, information, all that logical stuff, because we live in that our entire world is built at this time. It's operating on the geometry of the head and not the geometry of the heart. So when I turn the geometry of the heart on, this gets real clear. I
Mhm.
am deeply at peace. My
Mhm.
body is really grounded into the earth, because the
Mhm.
earth is sending her Shakti energy up through my body,
Yes.
firing up the heart, which is clarifying the mind. So it's almost like, the first time I experienced this, it was like the top of my head got cut off, and I
Mhm.
was just in this globe kind of feeling.
Mhm.
So they talk about, like, we just had the comet Atlas come through. The Atlas is the head. This comet Atlas that came through is the great awakener. It's awakening this new consciousness. Part of what it's doing is clarifying the mind, clearing up the head. So there's not really thinking. I get direct transmissions and I'm shown things in my material reality that
Right.
tell me about the story of my personal sacred geometry.
Right.
And then as I begin to align with my blueprint and I know what road I'm on,
Mhm.
I begin to get information about that road that I'm traveling.
Ashe.
So I know,
Ashe. That's good, Lindsay. Yeah, that's
yeah, it's
powerful.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that 2D geometry produces this 3D torus. So this is what it looks like. Last time we talked about the ritual of being inside the spiral. The spiral is moving. There's two of them, and they move. There's one from the top, the crown of the head spiraling down, and that is the light of the mind, the light of cosmos pouring down this way. And then it is this spiral coming up from my Mother Earth, and they meet at the heart. And so that's why we are really like part of the heartbeat of Earth if we're really connected. So, but it is, again, this, I feel like this image really shows, like, it starts with this 2D geometry that becomes 3D. You begin to take form, and then you're projecting your own field, and that's when you're sovereign, and then you can then go meet and marry with your own sovereign triangle, and it just continues. So everything in creation, everything that's material, has this field. This is called a morphogenic field. And we're going to talk about that in the last class more. It was too much to cram in for today, but this will at least give you the framework. When I talk about a morphogenic field, this is what it looks like. And so how does nature show us this? In the same way that nature shows us that design with the blue lotus, the torus is the apple structure. And you can see right at the core of the apple is that star. Of course, it's slightly modified in the apple, but this is really, nature shows us these things. And we see it in archetypal stories, right? Eating the apple, right? The fruit of the tree of life, even in Snow White, right? There's the poison apple and all of that. This is really talking about the torus. Here's kind of what it looks like. We see it in, this is a terrible picture, I'm sorry, but it kind of gives you at least a little cloudy look at, where do we see this torus? We see this in what we talk about as the Fibonacci spiral, which there's some distortions in the Fibonacci spiral that we're going to talk about, but essentially there's a variation of the Fibonacci spiral that's a little bit more perfected, because it's generated from the true geometry of the heart versus the solely distorted geometry of the mind. And so there's the Fibonacci spiral and there's the Christic spiral. They're almost identical. They look identical, but there's a minor mathematical difference. And we'll talk about it, but you see it in sunflowers and pine cones. The pineal gland has this pine cone structure. As the pineal gland decalcifies, these petals open up the same way the core of the sunflower, the core of the pine cone, the pineapple. It's all this structure. It's in everything. How did I discover this? So I actually have one here. I don't know if you guys can see me. But maybe I have the picture, but if you can see me right now, I'm holding up, this is a 2D, two-dimensional torus geometry. It's a piece of selenite with a little piece of metal, but you can see as I move it, the light reflects in this figure 8 structure, right? We've seen this structure, this 8. This is what the Lion's Gate is all about, is this portal for creation. I also want you to notice that the center point of the heart of the heart, is empty. Okay. And that's like, because everything are these molecules vibrating in empty space. So the emptiness within the center of the heart is the emptiness of these two spirals, the one from above, the one from below, that forms this empty tube torus, which is a void. And it's in that space of emptiness that light can then come in. And so it really is, sound is like the emptiness that holds the light. And this is what it looks like. So there it is. That geometry, you could see how the light was moving through it in that pattern. You can see how that shows up in biology here. This is also another depiction of it. You can see how it looks like. There's the above and the below, but when they come together, it forms these 4 chambers, which are the 4 chambers of the heart. The 2 halves itself form the 2 hemispheres of the brain. I will also share that this is the exact structure of the 13th Mayan crystal skull, which is what I was activated with. It was held to my head, and that is how this began to reveal itself to me over time. And when we talk about crystalline gridding and the planetary grid of the planet, we will talk about how that crystal skull anchors this consciousness and this pattern. It's really the pattern of the Christ consciousness. So pretty cool, but that's kind of what we're talking about here. You see, it looks like a 4-leaf clover, Lady Luck, right? The Sophia. This is what we're talking about. This is her. So again, this heart, it's the beating of the heart that forms the movement of energy. And it surrounds everything. So here's another look. Let's go inside this tube torus. So in a lot of ancient stories, we hear about the tree of life, the Magdalene, the feminine Christ. She's called the great tree because inside the flower of life, where that void is where the tree grows. That's where the human being is. That's why the thumbprint and the tree rings look identical. We have the same blueprint. So we are trees. We are living conduits between heaven and earth. And that's why one of the most valuable things we can do with our time is to put our back against a tree every day and be barefoot for 3 to 5 minutes. That is going to anchor this original structure in our bodies, and the trees have it moving through them. So if we put our backs, if we align our spine with the spine of a tree, we're getting that directly programmed into us from nature without having to do anything or even know about any of us.
Yeah, that's fire, Lindsay.
So
Hold on, let's slow down. Let's slow down because you and this bitch dropping, and my mind keep on going with the questions, but I keep on forgetting the damn questions because it's just a whole bunch of magic happening right now. Anybody got any questions for Lindsay? Because this is some amazing stuff right now, and it's some powerful stuff that we want to take with us and then apply You feel me, family? We want to definitely take with us and apply. Uh, um, anybody, because I got to slow Lindsay down so we can be able to digest a lot of this. Oh my God.
Well, you can just look at this picture. This is a really nice, clean picture that gives you a sense of these geometries coming together. They spin, it creates this energy in motion that's moving in this cymatic pattern. It forms the
Mhm.
tree of life. In the center point, you see the hexagon. It's empty because the hexagon is the void in which the first two triangles sit. It forms a six rayed star, which
Mhm.
nests inside the hexagon, which is the center of the tree trunk in
Mhm.
essence. And you think about life force flowing up and down through the tree,
Mhm.
through its trunk. Well, its nature is this. This is why the bees are so sacred and honeycomb is sacred. It's considered, the fleur de lis that marks the Magdalene meridian, which
Mhm.
is where all the feminine energy of the planet flows through. Why is it a fleur de lis? Because the fleur de lis is the sacred bee. It's also the lily,
Mhm.
and it's produced the same geometry. And so they,
I
I
got a
was
question.
funny. I took this Chris. Yeah.
I got a question for Dave. So this is my question. So it seems as if this is
Mhm.
part of the practices that what's the actor Terrence Howard was kind of getting into, but he was getting into like a different facet of his part. But it all has to do with like the building blocks and creation. I even seen something that looked like cells splitting, and that having to do with the same thing. So my question is, and to just interject this point, it seems as if scientists don't. It's not so much that they don't respect this knowledge. It seems as if they're trying to keep it away from us as far as it being true. And with that said, does this like this mastering this in some type of way, or is there some type of location that we still haven't uncovered that literally will give us the ability to create what we have here now, probably in a smaller portion, or anything like just kind of just it seems as if to me, and I believe this in my heart, but um this sector of knowledge and information holds the key to us being able to have our superpowers
Mhm.
for like
Yes,
telepathy
it
and
does.
for human flight and
Mhm.
for just all of the things that we see on these movies. The Limitless movie with and Lucy, just everything
Mhm.
she was doing, it seems like it lies in this knowledge right here.
This
Mhm.
is hidden. This is the hidden lost wisdom of the earth.
Mhm.
So why is science intentionally suppressing it? Maybe, but more than anything, this is the wisdom of the heart. Science is a mathematical. It's the mind,
Yeah, you blew my
right? They're
mind when you
still
said
looking
you blew
for
my mind when you
enough.
said
They're
that
still.
the heart when the heart beats, it signals the DNA to form the brain. That blew my mind.
Yep.
It was like, wow, like that literally what we've been saying, that portion right there, saying that to somebody like, man, the heart is the most important part in so many different fashions. Like, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely go back and check out the Mayan presentation because yes, what I am giving you, and I'm giving you the exact mathematical formula to create perfected Christ consciousness within yourself.
Mhm.
I have the sound tools that you can play in the pattern of the moon that's going to structure your body in this way. I
Mhm.
also provide the waters that are structured this way,
What type of
which is a whole thing.
practice? What type of practice, right? That one gonna have to do in order to start. Because like remember the 30-minute movie you told us to watch where the dude took the book and he perfected this thing and got it under like a minute or something like that where he was able to like actually see through stuff. Like
Mhm.
Yes.
is there a
So I've
practice
got
that is involved with this where we can start like,
yes.
yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yes, so here's the deal. So I have a system. I have an ecosystem that I have put together through my research. It's called the Her Heartbeat Ecosystem, Harmonic Earth Resonance. It is the sound frequencies of the mind as transmitted through beliefs that program the chakras, paired with the musical frequencies of the heart, which is determined by the moon's lunations through the 12 zodiac. It's 13 movements through the zodiac of the 12, which is the whole system. So when you play the sound frequencies that are creating these patterns, and your body is 90% water, all you have to do, and I do it, I spend half an hour a day. And that's why I'm teaching this, because I tested this on myself and it sent me into full alignment with the universe. They're like full lucid dream, awake all of the time. I have done this to myself. And so I need to formally launch the Her Heartbeat ecosystem. I wanted to get it done before today, but I'll have it done by the end of this class, and I'll make sure you guys have a link if you want to buy these tools. You can buy the chakra recordings. You can buy the ancient Cymatics sound science of the zodiac that you then map to the moon. And so that's what we talked about in the Mayan calendar. So this is also, you can buy copper. You can print out photos of these geometries, put them on your phone, hang them on your wall. I wear a copper lotus on my heart every day to keep my heart its energy moving in these patterns. I drink the water that I have programmed with this structure, and actually nature itself. There's a lake that I have harvested water from that has this. So I've been drinking it for 2 years. And so I've been consuming this in my body. And now I'm transmitting to you the wisdom of the water itself.
One thing I want to share
So
with
yeah,
the family. One thing real quick that I want to share with the family, Lindsay, that I do is like whenever we leave our house, we have sound bowls going on. Like just
yeah,
sound bowls through the YouTube, or Earth, Wind and Fire, or Stevie Wonder's
we have
album
to
Keep
get
Your Life of
really
Plants.
smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have to get really smart about what sound bowls we're using, though, and what geometries are they producing and what are they doing. And I think in our next class, I'm going to have a planetary sound healer who uses gongs to create specific cymatics for your personal biology. I think she's been doing this for about 60 years. So I think I may have her come on as a guest to talk about that. But yes, these frequencies are mathematical perfection. And yes, I have them available, and I can tell you exactly how to use them. And that's what I've been trying to do between the Mayan class and this class. So if you don't have what you need at the end of this, you'll be able to reach out to me and we'll get you set up. I also have a Telegram channel where every single day I give you the harmonic resonance that creates the perfected geometry on that specific day, because every day has its own signature blueprint. And that's what the Mayan calendar is about. So we need to be mapping our energy every day. So yeah, it's all here. It's like, I'm so excited to share this with you. I also want to just point out, at the end of this, we're going to be creating a crystalline grid so that you can program your space with this geometry. And you can program your body, and you can put your intentions into this perfected geometry. It's called the Eye of the Dragon. It's a toroidal marriage of head and heart, the ultimate Hieros Gamos alchemical union that creates the Philosopher's Stone, which is that crystal clear mind. And so it's this Eye of the Dragon. We are in the year of the dragon. So this is going to be we're going to hopefully get it to you right before Christmas. We'll give you the literal Christmas tree of life. You can build it in your house and receive the energy of it every day. So it's going to kind of look like that. I won't share it yet, but just wanted you to know that that's where we're headed. But I wanted to just get a little bit deeper, because we've talked about the 4 chambers. Here's how the tree of life in a perfected form. This is how the energy flows. It's like a clover leaf. And it's created, and this on the left is, if you look up the water molecule, it's this perfected structure, and it creates that pattern. And so this is how this gets really complicated. I'm not going to get into it, but I want you just to be able to see that these things nest within each other, and they also connect. So this is what a fractal looks like at the subatomic level. The Mayan calendar fractal pattern of the 13 day wave spell, it also creates the same 4 chambers here, which we talked about in the last class. So definitely revisit that to understand how sound creates this and how the sound every day creates this for us. You can also tap into this structure because this geometry then has wisdom. You have, you know, ancient Hermetic science, the wisdom of the Gnostics, Jewish mysticism, shamanism, you know, all of the occult. You can study this wisdom, and you're really studying the story produced by this geometry, the geometry of the heart. And you can kind of see it depicted here. You can study the tree of life path. And it's, as you study the tree of life path, this is the perfected one. Is one that is, we have 2 trees of life. We have a tree of life of the head, and we have a tree of life of the heart. The head is like, I want to say, minerals, land, earth. This is water. But since everything is one and sound is first and sound anchors water, we want to align with the structure of perfected water, which is different than the tree of life that we often learn through the Kabbalah tradition. So there's different trees of life, and that's where we want to make sure that we're aligning with the one that is going to align us with the heart. Because again, thought without a heart is just a thought. It doesn't become anything. We're here to create on this plane.
I have a question,
We
Lindsay.
got to, yeah.
Um,
I'm
have you
back
been
while you
watching the
before people.
yeah, have you been
Mhm.
watching the movie or not the movie, the show From?
I have
From?
not, no.
Oh God. I can't well, you got to check that out. But anyway, they're getting real deep into the Kalipov and going through the dot and the dark side of the tree, if you will, and just the subconscious energies or the part of us that we keep suppressed or the shadow side, the shadow aspects of us. You got any thoughts on that in the form of
Yeah. So that's perfect segue to, I think, what we're going to talk about here.
hmm
So I said that there's 2 trees of life, there's
hmm
2 flowers of life. And you go on Facebook or Instagram, you follow anyone in the occult, they're going to tell you that the one on the right in the first picture is the daisy of death. Does anyone have any ideas why that would be considered the daisy of death versus the one on the left? I'm just
Where?
curious if you guys can see it. Well, don't look at the text, just look at the symbol right now. Tell me if you can see what the difference is. I'll tell you. The one, oh, do you have an idea? Do you see it?
Okay, I was trying to figure out which one was the daisy of death. Okay, I see what you're saying. Go
Well,
ahead.
right. See, that's what we're going to talk about this because there's a lot of misinformation and people saying, oh, they're trying to program you with this and this is the dark side. And no, they're trying to program you with this and this is the dark side. And nobody knows what the F they're talking about. And I need to,
Mhm.
and I'm here to fix that. So you guys don't absorb some misinformation about people trying to keep you in duality and separation
Right.
via this geometry, because that itself, the separation of these 2, the demonization of one over the other is what's
Mhm.
creating all of our problems,
Right,
frankly.
exactly.
So I
Because
was
that's
actually sent
that's
on
the
some
whole.
earth.
Yeah, no, that's good, Lindsay. That's the whole aspect of like and alike are the same. So when people try to demonize certain things like the Baphomet or put us in this specific position of the pentagram being, because it's just pulling, just like you were showing, is pulling energy, right? From, I guess,
Mhm.
Sister Earth, if you will, right? If you look at the
Yeah.
pentagram, it's downward energy coming from our crown, right? And then just the upside down pentagram is coming from our crown, and then the pentagram is just like you showed, like we're grounding and pulling up energy or giving out energy in essence.
And
So
those
then
those 2
yeah,
triangular spirals. Yeah.
right, right.
So here's what, but those 2 triangular spirals that coming together from above and
hmm
below,
hmm
that's what forms the 2 torus, which is this pillar of emptiness, which is the womb of creation that energy flows through. It's the heart of the heart. It's the center point. In the first photo on the right, Do you see a center point to which all of those circles are returning? The one center point, or do you see a bunch of circles connected as individual parts?
Mhm.
Do you see it? You
Yes.
see how there are a whole bunch of different flowers, but they
Hmm.
don't flow together?
Okay.
So that's
Right.
the mind of limitation.
Mm.
That's why we are stuck in a cycle of having to die and be reborn.
Hmm.
The one on the left is the sacred geometry of eternal life. It
Mm.
is
That makes
the
sense.
sacred geometry of the fountain of youth. It is
Hmm.
eternal. This energy is eternally returning to source point, and in
Hmm.
that pattern, it's also eternally expanding. It's infinite.
Hmm. Hmm.
You almost can see, and this was shown to me because the Mayan crystal skull was actually taken to the heart chakra of the earth, and it depicted a horned demon behind bars, and the crystal skull was supposed to free this horned demon. Well, when I was shown that the bars, if you look at that image on the right in the first picture, you can see it forms like prison bars.
Mm.
It's a
Hmm.
fixed, it's a
Hmm.
fixed state.
Hmm.
So that's the geometry of the mind. It's the masculine. But here's the thing. We need that. It's in nature. We can't destroy it. Even if it's inorganic and not how we were originally created, it's still a part of nature. We demonize that. We demonize ourselves, you know? So we can't do that because then we break ourselves. We separate the masculine from the feminine. They don't come together. We don't have form. Guess what? Our earth blows up. That's why these kinds of posts are so destructive. Do not believe all of the conspiracy theories. You need to press the conspiracy theories about how can I view this through the lens of love? How can I view what we say is patriarchy, which would be the flower of life? That's still the masculine consciousness. It provides the structure and the form for which the feminine can flow through. That's what gives us a human body. We need it.
Hmm.
We have to marry these two into one, which is then what creates the Torah. Then we have both structure and form, but it's an eternal structure and form. So we can't have eternal life with no form.
So
We need that movie project.
you're saying it's basically ego and spirit, or set in Horus.
Yeah, it's head and heart. The Merkaba, one is masculine, one is
Hmm.
feminine, one is the brain, one is the heart. So,
Hmm.
but our world is programmed on the geometry of the brain only, separated
Hmm.
from the heart. That's what
That's
the
why I feel like
his
life is so beautiful.
story.
Like life is beautiful because of that. And people like with Bobby Hemming and Panic was just telling us like y'all took the dark side too far. Y'all trying to sin too much. Y'all not appreciating being grounded, actual real grounding and being in this dense form. This is the most, I guess, beautiful depiction of consciousness that we have right now. We think everything else is so beautiful, but everything else is on the movie screen. Like this right here is the set. This is the movie set. We have to be
It
absolutely
is.
happy with our ego sometimes and mesh it in that balance. It's about balance. I tell people this all the time. It's dope.
Yeah.
It's really dope you saying that.
It's the one mind, the one heart, the God, the goddess. These are the geometries of each. And then so what we're going to do by the end of this 3-part series is you will physically, if you follow the directions I'm going to give you on crystalline gridding, you will physically merge these by the end of this class, and you will have an anchored one mind, one heart in your own home that you can program yourself with. So you got to be careful when you see stuff like this where they're crossed out, right? Like this is not about because anything that we cast out and separate from ourselves fragments ourselves. So both of these are valid, and it's the merge that we're going after. So you have to be really careful when you read about all this conspiracy stuff and breaking the system. Yes, the matrix is programmed on the flower of life. However, you're not going to beat the system by breaking the flower. You're going to destroy yourself. So we need to be really careful. We need to understand when we are getting angry at the patriarchy and history. This is still a part of us. What needs to happen is that the mind, the head, needs to be surrendered to the heart. And in Chinese medicine, they say that the true mind is actually in the heart, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's the intelligence of the heart that's supposed to be projected onto the mind. So, you know, we got to be careful when we look at things like this. There is a lot of truth and wisdom in this picture, but there's also somebody's judgment, because it's our judgments, our conclusions, our swords of truth that create the separation. So we need to be careful what we're separating when we should be merging, right? So this is like, if for you guys that are number geeks, you know, the Fibonacci, people will talk about how this is the you know, nature has this whole thing, the Fibonacci, it nests in the flower of life. Yes, it does. These are the mathematical differences between these two. And I am not a mathematician. I'm just giving you the numbers in case that you're curious about them. So this is, I just saw this recently and I was really pleased to see it. It's the first post kind of saying that, you know, these two symbols are actually two versions of the exact same thing. What makes them different is at the core of the flower. The spheres are disconnected in the flower of life from center, from 0 point. It's expanding without its source. And so it eventually dies. We eventually die. Our cells, the telomeres eventually give out and we stop reproducing and we age. So if we actually want to reverse age, this is how we do it. So the lotus of life has everything connected to 0 point. So there's an eternal source power center at the center that's going to keep it alive forever as it continues to expand. That doesn't extinguish. So yeah, I was really excited. I've only seen one post on the internet in 2 years of studying this that actually acknowledges that they are really just actually different viewpoints even of the same structure, because as you can see that infinity 8 creates the cell division, right? And that's what creates all of our cells. So it's not bad or wrong. It's just a container. And we just need to slightly alter the mathematics, like our planet needs to slightly adjust straight up and down, which happened exactly 1 year ago today. And I'll just tell you guys, there's a ceremony happening later today that we're going through a 40-day purging of distortion from these geometries not being aligned. And that's the next phase in our planetary evolution. So we'll talk about that. But at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about. So when we merge these geometries, this is how we create heart coherence, which we've all been learning about in the book Supernatural, right? So this is right from the book. I wanted to just share this as well, that you know, in Welsh and Celtic, right, the floor-leaf clover, which is where some of this wisdom is connected to ancient Ireland, and there's a whole story around that, which is very archetypal, and we won't get into it. But it's important to look at in the Celtic tradition, to return to a balanced state of mind literally means to return to the trees. We have to return to the heart in order to balance our mind, because it's the geometrical cymatic pattern of the heart projected onto the mind that balances these hemispheres and brings them together so that they have that central core of energy. And so we've seen that. What happens when we do this right now? And on December 21st, I'm traveling through some of the grids that I created to anchor this energy. I'm going to be going back down through Mount Shasta. And when I get through the portal that I set up, I'm going to be landing at a ceremony on December 21st that is for the Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent, which is really reflective of the activation of the rainbow body. And the plumed serpent is big because we're in the year of the dragon. The Quetzalcoatl in the Mayan tradition is the Mayan Christ consciousness. It's the archetypal story of the creation of this perfected consciousness within humanity. So it's about the creation of this perfected light body. So all of the chakra work, that's why chakra work is so critical. And that's how we program our mind to be in alignment with the heart, as well as by activating the chakras and getting this full spectrum of the rainbow body to illuminate as we fix our DNA, our genetic code with sound and light, right? So this is how it looks. This is what's going on the earth right now. On July 22nd, I launched on the day out of time, which is the center point, 0 point of creation. That's when I did my talk on the 13 frequency and the heartbeat of the earth. And we talked about, mapping the energy every day. So 2 days later, it was a heart chakra day. And every day on Thursdays in the Mayan tradition, there's something that's done called a rainbow bridge meditation, where you imagine this rainbow body being created within yourself, and then you plug your heart into the earth, and it's activating this toroidal field of rainbow light. That day, there was one person on the call. Immediately after, he saw a giant rainbow appear in the sky. 2 hours later, I turned on my phone. I see this breaking news from NASA with all of the aurora borealis activity and the CME activity. It's pushed stardust into the toroidal field of Earth, and it is creating this rainbow bridge. We are at solar maximum. That stardust in our field has literally created the rainbow bridge on this planet. I was the one that discovered it, and I had to reach out to all of the nonprofits that teach the law of time around the world, and I was the first. They weren't even aware of it, and it was like the work that I did with this small group of people, that revealed that to us.
So
So
you're
it's
like
really
God,
powerful.
you like God, Lindsay. You know that you you like
I've been plugged in. I am definitely plugged in. This earth has given me everything she's got, and I just want to give it to you guys and get it out. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to.
if you had to choose a goddess, who would it be, Lilith or Eve?
Oh man. No, they're also polarity of the feminine, so I
Yeah,
choose them both.
but choose them both. There you go. I feel it. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what I got for you guys today. I know it was a lot. We're gonna have more time. You guys can ask questions. Oh, also, this is old. It says girl in the wild coat. I'm on Instagram, you guys. It's Heart Ecologist. HeartEcologist. Okay. So it's also heartecologist.com is my website if you want to reach me. That email address is good, but I'm sorry. I'm prioritizing getting the information to you guys over getting my marketing materials, right? So just reach out to me if you have questions.
Put it in the
And then
chat,
next,
Lindsay. Put it in the chat for sure.
yeah. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, yeah. So yeah, what questions do you guys have? I know that was a lot. I did it just in time, I think.
Yeah, you did a great job, and it was absolutely fire. And I'm like literally excited for part two. Um, because yeah, you could have went really in depth, and uh uh but we got to the crust of it, and what we actually needed, and how all of that stuff aligns, especially with just understanding that the sacred geometry is just not a two-dimensional shape, but it's actually a three-dimensional shape that forms from. Because I got a question for you, Lindsay. So then when we talk about the smallest particle in the body,
Mhm.
the smallest molecule in the body. So then, there's studies, or not studies, but there's findings where they're looking at plants at the smallest particle, and they're just crystal gridded in such an amazing, powerful way.
Yep.
And I was thinking about that when you were speaking. So then when we think about the quantum field and our smallest particle in our body, that would essentially just be a big ass Merkaba.
It is. The Merkaba is what forms the torus. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's why people get really complicated with the math of this. What I want is for us to zoom out and see the big picture, because it's really pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
We can go down the rabbit hole and we can dice and dice and dice and dice, but it's the same structure the lower
Right.
we go. We're just getting more specific. And so we will get more specific in this series, which is what we're going to do next time. But right now we're just focused on that Merkaba, that three-sided triangle that is the two-dimensional blueprint for the four chambers of the heart, which
Mm-hmm.
is this crystalline consciousness, right? Like this is the heart. This is the real Christ consciousness. These are 4 trees of life nested around a central one that is projecting that out. And that's what's
Mm-hmm.
forming the fractal. And that's really what the Christ consciousness is. So you can
Mm-hmm.
access it through geometry, you can access it through sound, you can access it through wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
because wisdom is really the embodiment of the geometry and the emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
The heart and the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I
When
want
you
people to realize, like, we complicate enlightenment. I want to make it simple and accessible for people.
when you think about Jesus on the cross and him being in a tetrahedron when it's boxed in, what are your thoughts on that? When you box in the
What are my,
cross, when you like box in the cross, right? And
well,
in my
for me,
understanding,
the
the box
cross,
that you're stuck in, right, is kind of like uh limited thinking, or just like you were showing that one tree of life.
that's Saturn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saturn is time. Saturn creates the form. That is the mind. But it's needed. Where we are is we have it out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't plugged into this. They're not communicating. There's no common union. They're not marrying at the throat, which is where the Christ consciousness was really created. When the head and the heart are talking, then it
Mm-hmm.
forms a new act from
Mm-hmm.
here. And that's the expression
Mm-hmm.
outward.
The
That's why people are
sound,
talking
yep.
about there's going to be this renaissance of creativity. It's because these two are coming into union. We're going to have, our minds are going to be filled with the creation energy of our hearts, and we're going to be
Mm-hmm.
expressing that. And that is
Right.
what Christ consciousness looks like. The other thing I will just say, if we want to take that Merkaba here of us personally and apply it to the earth. So if we are then the head and the earth is then the heart, it meets and marries at our heart, which they talk about the treasure chest. X marks the spot. Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
X is the cross, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
marriage of earth and heart is happening through our hearts. We are the ones that bring heaven to earth. We are the tree of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like these axes of perfected crystalline structure are created through our physical vessels and our energetic vessels.
Yeah.
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 So
Absolutely.
that is what wisdom is about. Wise dome, the heart filling the head,
Mm-hmm.
So we can study the wisdom, but we can also the wisdom can reveal itself to us organically through our environment without ever picking up a book, which is my
Mm-hmm.
experience. When you bring these geometries and sound into place, then the wisdom you don't even need to read. I swear to God, it's crazy. It will just,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
will just
It
know
just
it.
come. Yep. You just know it. Yep. Yep. It's
And then you
almost
can
like.
read, and then that's what I had to go. I was being shown stuff. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are all these things connecting? And then I had to go read the Gnostic stuff to
Yep.
understand what the heck was going on. I did my research after I knew. That's why you're like, have you watched any of this stuff? I'm like, no, all I did was align with the form, and
Mm-hmm.
it was downloaded into
Yeah.
me.
You will have
So we
dreams
all have
of
that ability.
you will have dreams of different gods and goddess that you never heard before, and then all of a sudden you got to look it up based off of the wisdom or the downloads you
Exactly.
received.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting case study when we look at the energy. That's why the whole thing about attraction or magnetism is based off of not how you speak, but speaking things into existence, and then people can feel a resonance with your voice or what you're putting down. You feel me? So then it's like
Mhm.
people are drawn to you, right? Based off of the way you're probably
Magnetism, because you're spinning.
yeah. Well, so the more
It's
you
like,
get that
if
in
you think about
alignment,
it, it's a
yeah.
tire on a car. It's a
Mm-hmm.
tire on a car, right? When your wheels are out of alignment, your car's going all over the
Yeah,
road. It's a
yeah.
wobble. The planet has a wobble. Our
Mm-hmm.
Taurus wobbles, right? So, well, you get your wheels lined, you got it straight. Well, then that thing spins like this. And it's like when there's a wobble, let's say you throw a rock at a spinning wheel, but it's not spinning, it's spinning like this. That rock is going to penetrate it. It's going to penetrate the field, because
Mm-hmm.
these things coming. Now you get that wheel spinning, you throw that rock, it's going to bounce right off. And that's what happens with negative energy. People
Mm.
worry about negative protection. You don't need protection when you have this. You are your own protection. Love is your own protection. You're spinning so fast, nothing can fucking touch you.
Yep.
Even
I
if it
say.
looks like it's gonna touch you, it'll get really close. Like, oh my God, I'm about to die, but
Mm-hmm.
somehow it'll spin off.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much magic in that. And then it's like, well, for me, for a long time, it was like, I kept thinking I was going to have a heart attack with all this stuff, but I was always fine. And then over time, it's gotten easier. It doesn't even get close to me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
spinning faster and faster.
Yeah. And then
And that's
naturally you'll just start to walk a certain path that moves you into more higher and higher vibrations just based off of you thinking a little bit differently. You feel me?
and
Moving
you
a
can
little bit
trust.
more.
You
Yeah,
can
yeah.
trust life. And what I think is so powerful about that, even if you can't believe spirit or, you know, mythical stuff, you can believe math. You
Yep.
can know that math is true. And that's why I like this, because if you're somebody that doesn't understand spirituality, but if you can understand spiral movement and you can understand the measure of music and how music is really created, then you can trust that math. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what's so powerful about the 13 moon calendar is as long as I'm mapping myself to that, I know my geometric form is perfect. It's
Mm-hmm.
flawless. It's natural law. Nothing can fucking touch me. But
Mm-hmm.
if I wobble on that, then I'm out, I'm out of alignment. Yes, it is thinking, but I have to be honest, if we align our math first, the thinking is naturally in line.
Right,
We
right.
can
So
change our thoughts and that changes the geometry, or we can go to the geometry and the geometry shapes our thoughts.
so that goes to the point of working on yourself rather than working hard on something else. You feel me?
It's
So
an
the more
external
right,
versus internal
yeah,
orientation.
so the
Yeah.
more you work on yourself, family, I just want to encourage the family to understand this. The more you work on yourself, the more attractive you'll become, if you will. And then the more, like Lindsay is saying, stuff will just bounce off of you. And then you'll be like, damn, I didn't have to work hard on something outside of me, right? So for instance, when I do my YouTube videos, I literally just put 5 slides together and just click and then click. And really, I don't need the slides. I just be doing it just so I can stay on point because I'll go into tangents of stories and shit. And then my whole YouTube would just me telling stories. And then nobody gets no information. But it's basically something that's inside of you that just speaks out in a way that you don't have to really prepare. You feel me? Because you're just that being. You're just that nigga. You're just the shit. You're just the God. You feel me? So that's very, very important to understand. Work harder on yourself more than you working harder on some kind of external idea of, I gotta cram all, and shit. It's as simple as really getting into the work and really tapping in with the gnosis. Go ahead, Titus. Tell me something.
I had a, go
Uh,
ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
My question was just gonna be, cause funny enough, the other day I was driving home and I had looked at our, what is it called? An odometer, an odometer, something like that, that tells you the number of miles that you've driven, right? And at that time, I was literally stopped at a light right before I was about to turn into our neighborhood. I was on the phone with Dream at the time because it was night when I was driving. And it was at 54, 54, 54. So 54,500 and like 45 miles and like 0.4 miles, like 545454. And then even right
That's
now,
3 9.
yeah, yeah. And
The
right now,
Trinity of 9.
so that's why I'm bringing it up because even right now, I'm adding groceries to my cart. And I had just paused for a moment to like deal with the kids or something. I come back and I look at the total and it's 54, 54. And
Mhm.
you were saying that I, was thinking about all of those things right at the same time as you were saying, we know math, right? If the other things we cannot understand or we cannot grasp or whatever, we know math. So how do we align numerology and these number sequences, these, what they call angel numbers with this sacred geometry? Or is seeing the numbers itself a representation of our internal sacred geometry?
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a reflection of the internal frequency. So anything external that you see is a reflection of your internal frequency. So numerology is actually, it's almost telling you that you're on, this is the road that you're on. So
Yeah.
3 9s, feminine, the sacred feminine is number 9. I was born on 1/9, January 9th. You know, the 9 together is the 10, which is the 1. Like, so this is how I can see how this stuff works. So 9 is the triple goddess. So 5, so that's telling you, okay, I am aligned with the trinity of 3s and the feminine energy. Guess what? That's where you want to be, right? That's really like the money spot, right? So you can know you're in alignment. You don't have to worry.
Yep.
You know, when you worry is when these numbers aren't sequencing. Guess what?
Mm.
There, you got to wobble somewhere. So you either need to go back and get going with your sound, which is going to correct your geometry, or you need to start looking at that geometry, or you can go and do some thinking, or you can go thinking, reflection, journaling,
Mm-hmm.
clearing of your energy, all of
Mm-hmm.
that, alchemy, whatever space you could work with the elements because they have their own geometries. We have our own astrological blueprint, which is how the elements, the geometries of nature come together to form our unique signature blueprint so we can learn our blueprint and see where do we maybe have a wobble.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have a God, which is a finger of God. It's a triangle. It's a trinity. It points right to Cancer, my north node of destiny, the great mother. Well, guess what triggers that yod? It's like a bow and arrow. It's triggered by my sun and my ascendant, which is Capricorn and Taurus, which is the masculine structure aspect of the feminine. So if my destiny is great mother of the water, I
Mm-hmm.
have to align the other half in order to trigger that yod and fire me towards where I'm going. So then when I'm seeing frequencies in my environment that reflect where I want to be going based on what I know about my blueprint, I can say, hey, I'm on the right interstate. I'm going right where I want to go. And you say, thank you, show me more. Right. And then you
Mm-hmm.
double, you can either, but yeah, I mean, it's literally, it is the work of aligning these number frequencies, and then it's going to be reflected to you through the synchronicities.
Yeah.
So,
That's fine.
I'm really I have somebody that has struggled a lot with trust in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I do every day, I do sound work, but I don't do sound work, just the heart resonances. I do the beliefs that aligns my chakras. So I'm aligning heart and mind. And then I'm literally keeping this pattern in my physical environment and I'm scrying with this, right? Stuff gets, as I look at the light, this is projecting this geometry of the heart onto my head. It is imprinting my head with this pattern of the heart. And I also have a water bottle that I structure water with this pattern, and I use sound and tuning forks to activate it. So yeah, I mean,
We on the
100% like,
same mission, Lindsay. This the same Yosef was giving out and stuff.
and
Yeah.
it's his
Yeah.
birthday today, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
say. Go ahead, Titus. Tell me something.
Oh, I was gonna say, I know when we were talking about the rainbow and the dust, I know they said something about Kalindi had said something about technology and dust.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch the video, but I was gonna say, did you guys know anything about that?
And Kalindi just be way out.
I didn't I have to be honest, I'm not studying so much what other people are saying about this stuff. If I catch it, it's usually confirmation, but so I don't know about all of the different experiences that other teachers are having with these geometries and how they're sharing it. Everybody has their own way of sharing this wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be in a position to comment on that, unfortunately. But
No, you're
That's how
fine.
you know you're mastering something. That's how when I hear
Right.
artists saying stuff like that, like you go to an artist and he in his bag, a music artist or somebody, they be like, man, like Wayne used to say it all the time, like, bro, I don't watch TV, I don't listen to nobody else's stuff, bro. And that's how you actually know that somebody's on the path to mastery. Because it's like, wow, yeah, that stood out to me. I just wanted to say that, man. You're awesome.
Yeah, because it's like, do you believe you can drive the car, or do you know you can drive the car? When you know you can drive the car, it's embodiment. So wisdom is the embodiment of knowledge. Like, I didn't practice this presentation. It was done. I finished this at 3 a.m. last night. I got up at 6 to get ready for this. So I got 3 hours of sleep. I didn't practice this. I did the slides last night because this, and I was worried about that because we're taught you have to rehearse, you have to present, you got to put on this performance. Well, I don't have to practice it because I am it. I'm just
Mhm.
talking about myself, my own geometry, right? I know my blueprint. So yeah, I mean, I think there, like I said, there's different ways of accessing the blueprint. There's different doors into the house. I like to go in through all the doors because I feel more secure. You know,
Yeah.
I really have had that hard time with trust. So I want to know that I'm getting it from every angle. I'm getting it from the heart. I'm getting it from the mind. I'm getting it from the 4 directions, the 4 chambers, the 2 hemispheres of the brain. I'm
Mhm.
plugging in all of the circuitry, not just part of the Christmas tree, the whole
Yeah.
tree I'm lighting up.
Ashe. Pacho, tell us what you're saying with the you said the Daisy of Death is misinterpretation of that Judy K. King balls of fire. The flowers in the right pictures are the telomeres and the shapes of the star. Let us know what you were talking about, Pacho.
Yeah, what I meant is because Lindsay was saying that the Daisy of Death, and basically that's what the right is perceived as, and that's like the masculine mind, right? Am I correct? That's what you said?
Yeah, hang on, I'll bring it up. So yeah, so this is tells 2 stories here and they both contradict each other, right?
Yeah,
So
I understand.
yes, I'm
So
saying
what I was,
the flower of life, the flower of life is the head, which is the masculine structure and form, which is this one in the first picture. It's on the far right, and the one on the far left is the geometry of the heart.
yeah, so that's understood. I was bringing it back to a correspondence that Panic made via this book by Judy K. King, which is called Balls of Fire. So the picture on the right,
Ah,
which you labeled the Daisy of Death, this is the misinformation. It's basically incomplete. So
yep.
that's why people are seeing it in terms of opposition. But if you needed to have some kind of referential, book or something of that nature, Judy K. King's book, that Panic, broke down and explained more in depth. It can basically help you explain, in a fuller detail as to what the hieroglyphics were really saying when it comes to the telomeres in that right picture. The telomeres in that picture are saying the human expression, which is limited, which is why you're saying it's the masculine mind, right? Because that's a
The
limited
structure, yeah.
vibration or form. So it had, like you said, it has its place, but I'm just bringing it into correspondence because a lot of people in the class are
Yep.
familiar with Panic's work. They're familiar with the book, and they're also familiar
Yeah.
with, the hieroglyphics Egyptian, because that's our heritage. So I was just kind of bringing it all together in terms of
Yeah.
going a deeper level to it.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
fire,
if you want to,
Pacho.
so if you study the ancient Egyptian archetypes, and we'll talk about the archetypes and how they reveal these geometries in the next class when we talk about the 13 facets of the goddess, and that incorporates the different energies, expressions. If the goddess is in the earth and the heart is an 8, a 13-sided, it has 13 facets for 13 expressions, and pretty much all of the goddesses can fit into one of those 13 categories. So that's how we can understand this crystalline structure through the nature of archetypes. So we'll get into that next time, because that's, if you study the ancient Egyptian mythology, the ancient wisdom of Kemet, which is that is the wisdom, the sound frequencies that we talked about when I did the Mayan time presentation. That is what activates it. So when I think of the flower of life or the daisy of death, which I don't even want to speak that into creation, that is such a bastardization of what we're talking about here. The 12, so we talked last time, we talked about this, right? How we live on our year is 12 months, but nature's year is 13, which is the union of the 12, right? So the flower of life is still the parts of the system. The eternal lotus is the whole system brought together and working as an ecosystem. So like just in this example where it talks about the energy of the two polarities, this category on the left is going to be the eternal lotus. This category on the right, the mind, is going to be the flower of life. So I would say that we see in Target now and Sephora and pretty much in all the major retailers, you see the flower of life freaking everywhere. But guess what? It's the geometry of the 12. So not that we need to throw it away, but we would be better served by working with the eternal geometry. And so I believe that this is maybe the system knows that people are waking up to sacred geometry, and they're kind of sneaking the geometrical programming that they want us to align to, which is the fragmentation of the system into different pieces, versus using this geometry, which you don't see anywhere, hardly. I mean,
So yeah, because I heard Trav
occasionally,
say this too. And I think he was bringing it up how you got to fall in love with the demiurge, and your Sophia, which is the spark of light and consciousness. So, but he was saying, which through this was back in the day, that that demiurge energy is something that you have to now, from our studies or with Bobby and Panic and stuff like that, we've been tricked or duped into being on this prison planet, if you will. You feel me? And we got stuck, especially in some of the Gnostic texts, like our mission is to get the fuck up out of this bitch, right? And in my walks of life and in my as I've been moving through this thing, I started because I was all full gun-ho about that shit heavy, right? And the problem that I was having, I think it, whatever it could have been, was that my thinking was destructive. So my world started to be crumbling in all around instead of me having a more positive outlook on life. I was saying fuck life, and that would change my world into disorder, if you will. You feel me? Because I still had to carry out certain human shit every day, day by day, jobs, whatever, kids and shit like that, right? So then I just started to grow into the understanding that I do have to make amends in a balanced approach with both aspects of the dark and the light set in Horus, and fall into a complete oneness or holistic approach of this thing.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm gonna share my screen again here. Can you guys see it? I don't know if you can.
No, it's not
So
on yet. There you go.
this is the blue lotus, right? So when we take the sacred geometry and we run life force energy, light and sound through it, it creates this plant. So what does this plant tell us? So we have feminine, which is water, which is the blue, and we have masculine, the solar logos, which is the golden center. It is the void of the blue, right? The water that holds the light of the solar logos, right? So this is the unity cross represented in this flower. Now you see at the center of that, there's the purple. What is the purple? The purple is the violet flame. The violet flame is the same energy as the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That is also the same energy as the archetype of Kuan Yin. It is through compassion and forgiveness that we clarify the mind. And so when this heart fire of the lotus fires up and moves through the throat, opening that channel of communication and penetrating the mind, it is the violet blue energy, which is the frequency of compassion, forgiveness, unconditional love. That is what makes the mind clear. Completely. That's what crystallizes the mind, is unconditional love, is compassion, is forgiveness. That is why forgiveness is the most important thing we can do. Forgiveness has the word forge in it, as in forged by fire. When we melt metal with fire. That's how we shape shift. That's how we change form, is through the fire, through the forge, through the forgiveness.
Through
That's
the
why we need to
fire,
forgive.
through the
We gotta
living, through the water. Oh, go ahead.
So we're talking about the marriage of fire and water here as well, right? So it's the water that holds the spark of creation, which is the masculine form, which is, and the light energy expressed. It's that's that's what it's doing. So
No,
it is
I
all
get
the heart by its very nature is alchemy, right? You can marry fire and water, right? And that's actually what Aquarius represents. Aquarius is the water bearer. Why is Aquarius an air sign, the water bearer? Because lightning, which is fire, is conducted through the water molecule, which is what that tree of life is about how lightning strikes. Pluto, the sign of the planet of transformation, on November 19th, 1-9 again, right, is moving into Aquarius. Aquarius is where fire and water come together. In my astrology chart, that is where my Mars and my Venus reside. That is where my Hieros Gamos is, right? So if I look at myself as having this blueprint of the earth, because I've kind of decoded that in myself, Aquarius represents the merging of these two geometries. I'm very excited about where our world is going. Like, if you guys really look at how geometry is being created by the cosmos right now, it's incredible. Like, I really want to do a whole class on the 13 contractions of how Maya is the Hawaiian mother goddess of creation, Pele, the volcano, fire again, right? She's meeting up with Pluto and squaring Pluto in Aquarius. So it's creating these 13 contractions that are birthing the new world, this cosmic consciousness. December 21st is the ceremony of the Quetzalcoatl. Like, we are alchemizing this in real time in alignment with the astrology right now. Like, it is coming online now. So we can either this is the program that we really need to get with. This is what the earth is doing to us. So
Yeah, I want to read
I'm very
something real. Yeah, no, that's good, Lindsay. You're dropping. I want to read something real quick. Luciferian witchcraft. Michael W.
oh
Ford. I
gosh.
know y'all niggas don't want
You gotta bust
to.
out Lucifer dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know y'all want to run from this, but it says something important in here, and I just want to reference and make sure that we get off of uh the idea of chaos being bad or whatever, or this disorder or of this world, right? Because it right now, especially with Trump being in office, it might be a lot of chaotic times, but that's good because we're moving into a space of balance and whole.
Chaos
And
is the spiral.
yeah,
Chaos is
yeah.
the spiral. It's the energy in motion, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
tornado. It stirs everything up. But we got to marry that with the measure to bring order to chaos, which is one of the Hebrew names
Mm-hmm.
for creation, is order to chaos.
Right.
So
And this says
yeah.
Seth is highly significant to the balance of chaos and order as he creates situations for both to occur. Seth and Horus
I
indeed
didn't
have a
even know
close
you were
connection.
visiting.
Yeah, Seth and Horus indeed has a close connection as not only brothers, but also deific oppositions. It is suggested by E.A. Wallace Budge that Horus means something similar to he who is above and Set, therefore he who is below, thus holding a significant to as above, so below. And the Baphomet ideal, long regarded as a form of hidden knowledge. Just want to let y'all know that. Watch. This is the stuff I got highlighted in the book because I went through this whole shit. But I just want to read my highlighted versions. The head of Ramses II has been shown being duly crowned by both Set and Horus. Indicating power and knowledge, which is what Lindsay was talking about. One reference of which Set makes comments is in the crowning. I will give thee all life and strength and health. Thus, although considered often a devil and most feared God, this power could be used in a positive aspect as well. Message.
Yeah.
Hey,
So I
this
wanted to
shit.
tell you something about Baphomet.
Hey, y'all.
So
Y'all be
Baphomet
running from this.
runs.
See, I'll be going right to it. I like, all right, let's get to it. You feel me?
So let's
And
talk about it. So the Baphomet is perfect thing to talk about because first of all, I was saying that, I'm a Capricorn, which is the
right.
devil, which is the Baphomet. And in my journey to understanding this, I was often demonized. So I really had to go deep in trying to understand it. The thing about the Baphomet has two horns, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But our whole thing to create harmony is about bringing the two horns to the one horn,
Mm,
which creates the unicorn.
mm-hmm.
Capricorn, Baphomet, is
Mm,
also the sea goat. It's the
mm,
Capricorn is the unicorn. It's half unicorn and half fish. So the
mm.
Baphomet imbalance is actually the magical, mythical unicorn of
Unicorn, yes.
unconditional love. Is
I
this
say.
neutrality? It is the center point. This is the unicorn. And the Baphomet is what the two horns of the Baphomet are what create this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say this
The
too on
Baphomet
that topic.
self-reflects.
On that topic, something interesting that just happened was the kids wanted to watch the new Transformers that came out maybe like a year ago. And the Transformers, the whole story is about them returning to their planet. But there's another group of alien transformer like things that wanted to, Titus, that wanted to eat up planets because it nourishes them. It basically wanted to come and take over Earth because it nourishes them. And that thing was called Unicron. So
Mm,
all the same letters as in unicorn. And
mm,
that really stood out to me that they would name it that Unicron and that its energy was I'm coming to Earth. I'm coming to Earth to take it over. I'm coming to Earth to make it theirs, or I'm coming to Earth for it to nourish me. So that's interesting. It all is very, you know, interconnected.
Yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
Kron is also Chronos, which
Mm-hmm.
is Saturn, which is time. So we're talking about the unity of the unicorn being the 13 mathematics, which
Mm-hmm.
creates the single center. It's the tip of the unicorn, right? This is also the pineal gland.
Mm-hmm.
And and when we connect the pineal gland on our forehead with the center point at the center of our head where the hemispheres are harmonizing together because that flame is then hitting and bringing everything here, it's
Mm-hmm.
creating this single point. This is also like the tip of the pen. It's the point is a circle, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so the cron is Chronos. And even like there's a shipping company that depicts Chronos as like the sea goat if you look at it. So um what you're talking about with Unicron is the
Mm-hmm.
13 mathematics that
Mm-hmm.
forms the center point of this heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fly,
I don't
Lindsay.
know
That's
if that.
fly. I also liked what you said about hugging a tree or standing by a tree and putting your feet in the ground as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. That's a easy and simple practice that we can,
Uh-huh.
start diving into. But the sounds and everything like that is very fire as well. Lindsay, put your website up so the family can know how, well, you said it's not,
Yeah.
is it ready or is not,
It's
well, we
up,
still
but
put it
I'm
up.
it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's up. It's ready. But I'm going to be relaunching it with a whole homepage for the Her Heartbeat Resonance System. So you can have the ecosystem, the trinity of tools that aligns light, sound, and the sacred geometry into this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to do that every day, it takes maybe 30 minutes and you perfect your geometry, perfect everything. It's like super easy. And you can tell because everything then just becomes like you're like, whoa, am I
Slowly, you
tripping
get
on
the
shrooms?
flow.
But no, you're
Mhm.
totally sober. So just reach out to me. I have all the tools on the site again, they haven't been synthesized into the ecosystem because I only got the name like a week ago and I
Mhm.
haven't had time, but it's there. It's heartecologist.com. You can email me lindsay@lindsayallison.com. And then I'm on Instagram. I'm putting it all here for you guys. And I am launching a Patreon soon, so I will have all of this good stuff available for the public. But for now, I can hook you up on a one-on-one basis. Just reach out to me either via private message or email, and I'll get you what you need.
I
And I'll
say, I
also
say.
by the end of this, I'll have it like I'll have a link that I'll share
Mhm.
with you guys. But if you
Mhm.
can't wait till the end of December till we get through the whole series, just reach out now.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Lindsay is gonna do a part two, and we're gonna solidify that date soon with the part two of this. What you call this build, Lindsay? Absolutely fire. Sacred geometry and
Sacred
anatomical. There you go.
geometry, anatomical cymatics, which is
Yeah.
sound made
Hmm.
visible, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, part two, we're going to talk about the sound made, like the geometry of the archetypes, right? Or, we've kind of gotten the head and the heart. That's the big picture. So now we'll talk about the elements, the archetypes, your personal, how you can find your own personal sacred geometry as reflected through your astrology chart, because your astrology chart is actually a cymatic blueprint. Your mind cosmology is a cymatic blueprint. So we'll talk about how you can figure out what your blueprint is and how you can plug your blueprint into the bigger blueprint. And that's going to be part three, where I will actually show you how to position stones, how to connect them together and connect your grid to the greater grid so that then you actually have a conduit in your environmental space. So
I
yeah, we'll
say,
get through it.
I say. Yeah. Any last questions for Lindsay? Lindsay, I just want to thank you again. It was an absolute fire build, absolute gems dropped, and this will be cut up, dissected, something, because I know that when we see it in small doses, right? That can kind of gets us back into track. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Let me put on this earth, wind, and fire around my home. Oh, let me go outside and hug this tree. Let me put this
Yep.
tree of life up, or sacred geometry up. You feel me? So that's what we kind of need to get out of our normal day-to-day drive that's moving us into robotic states.
Yeah, and I even I have an actual, and we could do this maybe in the last one with the crystalline grid, so you guys can actually have an experience of sitting in your empty torus, of feeling the solar logos activated within you, because you could do it through visualization. Even
Hmm.
if you don't have any of this or you don't have the
Hmm.
sound
Yeah.
frequencies, now that you know how you operate the machine of you, I could
Mhm.
guide you into a visualization so you can always access your own machine once you've experienced what it feels like to sit in empty presence, to be
Mhm.
the void of creation, to
Mhm.
feel that light energy entering your emptiness,
Mhm.
to feel that Christ consciousness created in you. And I can walk you through how we activate your connection to the earth. We make you the tree of life. Once you're the tree, we then bring in the rainbow codes. Once they're anchored in your body, we then send them up. We go up to the 7 stars of the Pleiades, which is where the chakra system originated from in the first place. We access the consciousness of the rainbow goddesses in the void, bring that back down into our bodies. It takes about 26 minutes, but that's something you could also do every day. And I can walk you through that. And so you can actually not just know this, but
Mhm.
feel it.
Feel it.
So we can do
Mhm.
that too.
I
Yeah.
say, I say, I say. Yes, sir, family. It was absolutely a pleasure. I love and appreciate all of y'all. And until next time, peace to the gods.